Hey everyone in the YouTube world, it's Craig from Flying Wheels. Welcome to my Flying Wheels YouTube channel. I own a car dealership, and if you love anything auto related, this channel is for you. Today specifically, it is for all of you independent automotive dealers all over the country of all shapes and sizes. I have two incredibly important people that are going to answer 28 different questions that have been given to me through Facebook comments, Messenger, YouTube comments, phone calls, emails, and text messages. Nobody knows what the heck is going on in the automotive industry right now. Are dealers shutting down? Are dealers going to have to shut down for good? What happens to buy here, pay here? You can't repo their cars. What happens to your lines of credit? What happens to your floor plans and your curtailments and your first month recourse? All of the questions you could possibly think of that are going to reflect you personally and your business are going to be answered in this video. So make sure to stay tuned for the entire video. You might want to listen to it throughout the day while you're at work, but I guarantee you the entire 58 minutes is going to be packed with information and answers for each and every one of you. So I'd like to welcome the CEO of the NIADA, Steve Jordan, alongside Shaun Petersen, who is the Chief Legal Advisor for the NIADA, working directly with Washington on our behalf. Let's get going. This is Craig from Flying Wheels. Welcome to my Flying Wheels YouTube channel. So everybody that's watching this video, I've been getting emails, phone calls, comments, text messages like crazy, wondering what's going on in the automotive industry. I've invited two very important people that can answer all of your questions far better than I can. So if you're an independent automotive dealer, if you're anyone in the industry and you're curious to know what's going on, this is the video for you. I have two people that can really answer a lot of your questions that you've sent. So make sure to throughout this entire video to help answer any questions that you may have right now. With me is Shaun and Steve from the NIADA. All right, so this is the first time I've seen Shaun without his suit. And Steve looks like he has his quarantine beard on. I have my athleisure on as well. So, guys, are you guys home right now, working from home?
We are. Yeah. So that's actually one of the things that we've done. As far as NIADA's response to this whole thing, we've really kind of approached it from three points. One is, how is the actual NIADA association as a company responding to all of this stuff? We have 32 employees in about 6 states around the country. As of yesterday, the office is closed to the public, but I can tell you that we're all working from home, and the NIADA at no other time has been more open for business than we are right now. All of our staff is working remotely, and I feel like we're doing more now than we ever have.
I actually figured exactly that, and I felt guilty. I had to email you because I'm sure there are 1,000 other things that you guys are taking care of right now as well. Shaun, would you mind introducing yourself for us?
Absolutely. So I'm Shaun Petersen. I'm the Senior Vice President of Legal and Government Affairs for NIADA, and my role with the association is to handle all of the things that are happening from the public policy perspective, primarily in Washington, D.C., but we're there to help with things going on across state capitals as well, and then any of the legal issues that come up.
So while we get started, are you guys ready to really get rolling?
Let's roll.
Let's do it.
I'm just going to hammer down on some questions. We do understand that you're not speaking for other people. You're speaking on your behalf, and any insight into the industry that you guys share with us is really, really very much appreciated. So let's be real. I've been on the forums. I've been all over the place talking, and no one knows what's going on. And not knowing what's going on inherently instills at least a little bit of fear in everybody. Do you guys think we should be scared? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, that's a fair point. And like you, Craig, we're getting a lot of questions from dealers and our members across the country. We have nearly 16,000 members in all 50 states, and we're getting a lot of those same questions. But I feel like it's important to, be positive about this whole thing. Yes, we're facing a worldwide pandemic like we've never seen before. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to do as an association with our members and our industry partners is respond in a way that's positive and in a way that contemplates controlling what we can control, right? Certainly, we're taking our lead from federal agencies, from the World Health Organization, from the CDC. We're taking our lead from governors and even county and local officials as to how we can best stop the spread of this coronavirus, but also at the same time balance the scales with continuing to move the economy forward. I feel like we have to stay positive. We have to stay ahead of the game and really control what we can control.
Now, the second question is, what is going on right now? Are dealers having a mandatory shutdown across the country? Do you anticipate all of us will have to shut down? What does this mean for people that are getting the messages that say you need to close your doors right away?
Yeah, so I'll jump in, and then Shaun, I'm sure, can add some color to that. But I can tell you what we're finding is every dealer across the country is responding a little differently. And it largely depends on what state you live in, what county you live in, and even what cities you live in, and their interpretation of what's considered an essential business. And I know we'll probably talk a little bit about that here in a second. But I feel like it's important to know that the feedback we're getting from our dealers and our members is a mixed bag. We're hearing some dealers say, hey, I'm coming off of one of the best tax times I've had in years. Tax time this year was better for me than it was last year. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Certainly last year was the first year we had a tax time under the new Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So I think operationally they were trying to figure some things out about how to get W-2s out, how to, and how to manage a lot of that. So we're hearing a lot of dealers say, hey, we had a really great tax time. We're taking our lead from the state. We're taking our lead from the federal government on what to do with my own business. And some of our dealers are saying, hey, we're having as good a month in March as we did last year. Others are saying, hey, we're furloughing people, we're laying people off. But I think what we're seeing right now is some contraction based on A, where you live geographically, B, what kind of dealership you are, and C, what your capital and financial position is. And they're responding accordingly. For example, we've heard a lot from our buy here, pay here dealers who, as you know, in the buy here, pay here world, you can have a related finance company and an auto dealership, and the two companies coexist together. So you control the bank, in which case you control a lot of the conversations that you're having with your customers. So in the absence of ongoing sales, those buy here, pay here dealers, a lot of them are still benefiting from those weekly, bi-weekly, monthly payments that customers are making. Right. What they're having to worry about now is what are their banking partners going to do to respond to a lot of this as well. So what we're hearing across the board is a mixed bag. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good, but we're all still trying to figure it out. But Shaun, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is, we don't anticipate that there will be a nationwide shutdown. The president and folks in his administration, particularly on that coronavirus task force, have summarily dismissed anything like that. What they have said is it's going to be up to local governors, local county and municipality leaders to make determinations based on their circumstances as to whether or not Americans need to shelter in place, what businesses can be open, can't be open. And to Steve's point, that's going all across the board.
Mm-hmm. Now, for everybody watching that is an independent dealer, I have had an amazing tax season. It was cut very short, but one of the best I've ever had up until 2 weeks ago. And I haven't had a single customer walk in my doors since. Now, we are still open for business. We're running our business by appointment only, and every car, and we're advertising this way, every car that we test drive has been sanitized prior and after each test drive. That's still not really bringing people in the doors. We're 45 minutes north of Boston in New Hampshire. Massachusetts is in a complete 48-hour lockdown right now. So even some of my guys that are coming in today were pulled over by the police just for being out on the roads. So we had to make signs that say essential employee for them to get here because we own an auto repair facility as well. We'll get to that later in the conversation.
Yep.
Next question actually is a perfect segue. Are we an essential business, and why? Is it just auto repair? Is it auto sales?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And I think the answer to that is going to depend on the jurisdiction. So for example, and I'm sure Shaun can weigh in a little bit on this. I know there's some interpretation of that at the federal level. States are also starting to weigh in on that at the state level. And then even municipalities and counties are also coming up with a varying definition of what is essential, what's not essential. What we understand at the federal level, and we were actually just on a call earlier today talking about this at the federal level, about what is defined as an essential business. Right now, the federal government is saying that auto repair facilities, service departments, those kinds of things are essential business. We're making the argument. We just wrote a letter to the president yesterday. NIADA also wrote a letter to the president yesterday with a couple of other trade associations, asking them to reconsider at the federal level the definition of essential business to include automotive sales. Because what we're finding is we're getting calls from around the country from dealers saying, hey, I'm getting calls from customers saying that they've got to get a car to get to work. They're nurses, they're cashiers, they're first responders. And unless or until at the federal level, they, maybe reconsider what that definition is to include automotive sales, that's the limitation. But right now, it's our understanding that automotive repair, automotive service is an essential business. But in some cases, Craig, as you know, automotive repair sometimes means you got to buy a new car. It's beyond repair. We've also written letters to the Governor's Association and the Mayoral Association, because a lot of those state level decision makers and local level decision makers are taking their lead from what the federal government is recognizing. Shaun, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, so these federal guidelines, as Steve mentioned, they're totally silent on sales. And what we're seeing in a lot of local jurisdictions, both at the state level and counties and cities, as they make these determinations, a lot of them are pulling those federal guidelines that, again, don't say anything about sales. They don't say essential, but they don't say not essential either. So some of them are making interpretations, well, yeah, of course sales is included. Some of them are relying on that federal guidance and saying, well, it's not listed, so sales is not included. It's just all over the board. Hence the reason why we needed to get this clarification, and we're going to continue to push them to make that.
So we continue to have those conversations. We will continue to monitor that and certainly be at the table as those definitions are being reconsidered. But the other thing that I can tell you is we're also seeing some of the state level governors, like in Pennsylvania, Maryland, we're in conversations with some of those state level officials through our state associations where they are reconsidering the definition of essential businesses to include automotive sales. Some states and local municipalities are defining that as automotive supply and automotive repair, automotive service. So you can make an argument depending, again, on the jurisdiction, and certainly this isn't construed to be legal advice, but you could make an argument in some cases where it says auto supply could also mean auto sales. But I could tell you in Maryland specifically, they did reconsider that and have now changed it to include automotive sales.
Can I ask you guys both a question real quick? And this is on my behalf. So I am a member of the NHADA, the New Hampshire Auto Dealers Association. Is the NIADA a membership based? Can you be a member of the NIADA as well?
Yeah, so it depends on, it sounds like you're a member of the New Car Dealers Association in New Hampshire. We also have state affiliates in the New Hampshire area out of our Massachusetts State Association. So the Massachusetts State Association controls about 4 or 5 states up there in the New Hampshire area.
Right.
And when you join the New Hampshire, or in this case, the Massachusetts New Hampshire Association, by extension, you then become a member of the NIADA as well. So
I
to join
understand.
the
Okay.
NIADA, you have to join the state association first, and then also become a member of the national association.
And the reason I ask is because just in the previous question that we just covered, seems like we as independent dealers have someone that has our back, someone that's fighting for us, that's keeping our doors open without us actually having to do it on our own. So that's what the NIADA is doing for us currently, right?
100%. I mean, this is a big part of our mission, is to advocate on behalf of the independent used car dealer industry, interact with and liaise with the federal level legislators, regulators, and all the federal level agencies that have essentially have control, operational control, into the independent space.
Everything is kind of flowing really right into the next question. Do you think, in your opinion, should we shut down, show by appointment? Should we just keep our doors open until further notice? What's your opinion on that?
Well, there's a couple of different opinions on that. I think certainly, the public facing answer to that is you need to take your lead from the federal government, and certainly what your state and local governments are requiring you to do. Certainly, depending on the jurisdiction, the way that's being defined is maybe in some cases ambiguous. I would say our official position is that is an operational decision left best to the dealer in counsel with their legal counsel, and certainly under the guidance of federal and state authorities as to what's considered to be essential business. Shaun, I don't know if you have a different answer to that.
100%. Every jurisdiction is going to take that very differently right now.
We've touched upon it briefly. What do you guys see in the market nationwide? Obviously, you have a much farther reach than I have when you're speaking to the other dealers. What do you see across the country? Like I said, I haven't had anybody here in over a week. I'm still getting calls and emails, but not really getting foot traffic in the door. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's a mixed bag. I think some dealers are seeing a steady influx of leads, of traffic, of phone calls. But again, a lot of that is directly related to where you live, where your business exists. I can tell you, dealers in California and on the West Coast, and certainly up in New York and New Hampshire and the Northeast, are Ohio, Michigan, Illinois. Some of those bigger metropolitan areas like that are having a much harder time than dealers maybe say in Texas or Florida or some of the southern states on the retail car side. I also know we're in constant contact with some of our counterparts in the industry on the auction side, the National Auto Auction Association. Certainly NADA, the National Auto Dealers Association, and a lot of other industry stakeholders who control not only big blocks of business on the retail side, but on the wholesale side as well. What we're seeing on the wholesale side with auctions is, in some cases, those auctions are going to 100% online, to distance socially and other things along those lines. I've even seen some auto auctions are saying, we're going to go to online sales only, but we're going to give you an opportunity as a dealer to come and look at the inventory, touch it, feel it, turn it on, kick the tires, smell the inside, but then at a time certain, you got to leave and then go buy it online.
Should we be taking advantage of purchasing right now? It seems like vehicles are finally below MMR. Do you think we should be taking advantage and filling up our lots as much as we can without getting the foot traffic as that we're used to?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And again, I think that's going to be based on individual business operations, what your capital position is, what your floor plan line of credit looks like, which is a whole other separate conversation that we're hearing from dealers about what their floor planning companies are doing. And I know, just real quickly on that topic, I know Next Gear Capital and AFC and a lot of other kind of independent, um, floor planning companies are doing everything that they can to come up with, disaster relief packages for dealers. In some cases, deferring or delaying loan payments or curtailment payments. So I know as an industry, everybody's really trying to respond in a meaningful way to make sure that on the other side of this pandemic, we've got a viable, independent used car industry to do business with, right? So whether or not that means you should go buy hard, man, I don't know. That's an operational decision left best to the dealer principal. Shaun, I don't know if you have anything else.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think those are just decisions you have to make. I will tell you, and we'll talk a little bit about legislative packages that come down the road. I mean, there's some operational relief that hopefully is very imminent that may alter that. But again, I think that is an individual decision based on individual markets.
Yeah, and the other thing, and to Shaun's point, the other thing that we're hearing is, with this first legislative package, the second legislative package, this third legislative package that they're working on now, there's going to be a lot of financial relief, not only to individual taxpayers, but certainly low interest and no interest loans from the SBA and others. So there is some federal financial relief that will be made available, but at the end of the day, there is some thinking that once a lot of this tax money kind of hits the market in the next several weeks, you could have kind of tax season 2.0 all over again.
Right. It's Stephen, Shaun, it's almost like I've sent these questions to you ahead of time because you're answering them before I can even ask them all. So I'm fortunate enough to own my own inventory. I've always maintained a low overhead. I'm also a small scale dealer though. What's happening to the larger dealers right now when shut down, and how are they being affected by this?
Yeah, I think it's bad for everybody that's having to shut down. Again, a lot of it depends on the size, your personal financial position with the company, your capital position, your lines of credit, your banking relationships. But I can tell you, we've heard from a handful of very large dealers who are shutting down. We've heard from some very large publicly traded companies that are taking some pretty drastic steps to, in the interest of public health, shut down for the time being, follow the president's lead, and try and do the right thing to flatten the curve on this thing so that like I said, we wake up in a month or 2 or 3 weeks from now to a viable industry.
Can I ask a question too about floor plans? So you just briefly touched upon it. For people that are using floor plans, there are rumors that the floor plan companies are helping the dealers out. Have you heard that they are or are not? If so, why? And this is a two-part question. For example, Next Gear Capital, I just heard a rumor that they're lowering their floor lines down to their current loan amounts. So if somebody had a $600,000 line but only using 100, they may have had their credit line dropped to that 100 just recently.
Yeah. So we're in contact with our counterparts at Next Gear and certainly Cox Automotive and Car Global and AFC and Wells Fargo and Westlake and many others. And everybody's got a little bit of a different approach. But I think just generally speaking, I would say if you have a question about your personal line of credit or what capacity you have to grow your line with your individual provider, in some cases, dealers have multiple lines, reach out to your contacts directly because I think some of those industry relief packages are varying based on the company and their individual capacities as well. I mean, look, we're all we're all in this thing together. Lenders, buyers, sellers, retailers, wholesalers, everybody's waking up, trying to, everybody's waking up every day to the same news that we hear out of the White House and from the CDC and this White House coronavirus task force. I mean, we're all getting the same information, and we're all trying to distill it down to how is it applicable to, for us, NIADA, our members, but then also what can the members do specifically within our industry to respond accordingly to what's happening. So one of the things I'll tell you, we've created a website called NIADA or COVID19.niada.com. That's a resource page of sorts for our dealers and for our members, so that they can see what is coming from the federal government in terms of regulation, legislation, advice from the CDC, advice from the World Health Organization, but also, to your point, what are our industry partners doing on a day-to-day basis to reach out to the industry, dealer by dealer, to help them kind of weather the storm, so to speak. So COVID19.niada.com for more information. Also, I want to just say we've created a texting opportunity where if people in the industry want to hear live updates or real-time announcements or legislative alerts or different things, you can text NIADA to 95,000, and you can subscribe to ongoing text alerts and text updates as we all try and figure this out on a daily basis.
So I spoke with my rep from Westlake, and obviously they're holding their recourse, their first payment recourse. And the reason he had mentioned that was because they're afraid that dealers will be selling bad loans without that first recourse. So they're maintaining that. But they're also changing their policies on curtailments temporarily. Have you heard about, I'm sure curtailments are a huge worry for a lot of dealers. Can you explain a curtailment briefly, 45, 60, 90, whatever it is, and how dealers can manage this right now?
Sure. So the idea of curtailments is if you've got a floor inventory line and you're unable to get the vehicle sold within a particular time as outlined in your contract, you may have a fee to continue holding that vehicle for the next interim period. Let's say if it's a 30-day curtailment, you have 30 days to get that vehicle sold. If not, there's a fee that goes with that into the next 30-day period, so on and so forth. So as Steve mentioned, we're hearing from a lot of our partners that they're coming up with various packages, including waiving those curtailment fees. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges that we're hearing from a lot of our dealer members is, how do we manage that going forward? And if I can't be in business to do sales, I'm going to have these fees. And we're certainly grateful our partners are stepping up, realizing that, and working together to come up with some solutions.
Now, I've spoken, just for the viewers that are watching, I've spoken with a few dealers all over the place, from $100,000 to $600,000 to $1 million and $6 million in floor plans. So when they're out of business for even 2 weeks or potentially a month, with those curtailments, cost of overhead, cost of doing business while not doing business is exponential, and it can put people out of business. So that's why these things are so important, right?
Sure. No question.
Many auctions have gone to simulcast. Many have shut down. Does this mean prices will increase because of low supply? So Steve, you had talked about how the auctions are working currently. The one I go to where I source most of my inventory, they're doing strictly simulcast. We can, like you had mentioned, we can still go see, touch, smell the vehicles, but then we have to leave to purchase and bid the vehicles online. Do you see an increase in price, a decrease in price, and do you think there'll be a lower supply because of this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's anybody's guess as to how this is going to play out. I think, maybe like the stock market, some days it's up, some days it's down. I think we're seeing a lot of volatility there. But I also feel like a lot of that is directly related to where you're doing business. What you may be seeing in Pennsylvania may be different than what you're seeing in Texas. That's why we advise, take a step back, look at your business operations. What can you do in the meantime, in the interim, to keep the dream alive, maintain social distancing so that you can lower the curve on this coronavirus pandemic. But it's anybody's guess as to what's going to happen in the market. Certainly, I would defer to my friends at Blue Book or Black Book and Kelly Blue Book and NADA Guidebook to help MMR and some of these others to help us really kind of determine on a daily, weekly, monthly basis what the effects on this on the whole industry are going to be. But look, at the end of the day, our dealers, just like you, are small business owners, and if you can buy a product cheap, sell it better, buy low, sell high. If you can find an opportunity to do that, we encourage you to do it 100%.
I've always found there's a correlation between price. So when supply is low, people are paying a little bit more, but they're selling it for a little bit more. When the supply is high, we're buying it a little bit lower, but we're still selling it a little bit lower. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
At least that's what I found.
Yeah, 100%. And I think at the end of the day, you would agree with this, as would everybody else. If I'm paying a little bit more for the auctions, at the end of the day, I still have to cover my cost. I still have to cover my overhead. I still got to pay sales guys. I got to recondition the vehicle. At the end of the day, the customer is the one that's having to pay a little bit higher price on that, because you're just going to pass it through to the end user. So if you buy it low, you have more opportunity to sell it at a better price. But look, when I was in the car business a number of years ago, we'd go to the auction and we'd hit home runs on a bunch of cars, and I would come back and tell our sales guys, hey, just because I bought it right doesn't mean we have to sell it wrong, So at the end of the day, if you can buy it right, you can sell it right, and it just means you're going to move it up or down the scale depending on what you got in it.
So I got a question from one of my viewers. A lot of dealers have been saying in the forums that prices are high, people are paying over MMR at the auction. Do you think there are too many players in the game, and that the game just reset itself? So are there too many dealers out there competing against each other?
I don't know. I think you could argue that's a good thing. I think you could say that the more dealers you have, the better the market is. Again, because you have a lot of different players in the market. You have a lot of different people who are players on, trucks or four-door sedans or high-end vehicles. Everybody has a little bit of a different take. And I would argue that more people in the market is a good thing. It helps kind of flatten the market in the sense that, it's a better buying environment when you have some of that than it would be, with fewer sellers or fewer buyers.
I was going to agree with that. I do. I think that the level of competition can be a great benefit.
So I started my dealership in Orlando in 2008. I had just gotten my license the end of 2007, started to really get a groove, and then everything collapsed. And we had this highway. It was Dealers Row, just filled with dealers as far as you could drive. And overnight, parking lots were emptied. Mm-hmm. Do you expect some, or are you more positive about this time?
Well, I would say I'm actually more positive about what we're going through now than what we went through back in 2008, 2009. Partly because I feel like the biggest difference between what we're seeing now and what we saw back then is the reason we experienced what we felt back in 08 and 09 was strictly because of the financial markets. The too big to fail approaches, big banks over leveraging on subprime housing loans and the securitization of a lot of that. So that's a completely different, I think that has a completely different impact on our financial capacity than what we're seeing here. I think what we're seeing here is a slice of, I think you're seeing a slice of, a medical, obviously a virus, a medical concern. You got hospitals, you got doctors. And I think you've got an attempt here globally to not overpower our capacity to serve and meet the medical needs of those who need it, specifically those who are suffering from the coronavirus. And then, you know, people who may be in a health condition that would make them susceptible to, you know, negative effects of the coronavirus. So I feel like in 08, 09, it was specifically financial related. This is a medical event that's having indirect financial consequences because of a sustained suppression in, you know, our way of doing business.
So again, perfect segue into the next question. With what's going on right now, I've been getting advertisements from GM, from Ford, a lot of franchise dealers, 0% for 84 months. Do you think that's going to affect the independent market?
Yes. Well, yeah, I think so.
No, I think it will. And let me talk about that. I think look, a lot of the manufacturers recently just made decisions to shut down manufacturing for a period of time. So that was also something that we saw back in 08 and 09. Manufacturers just stopped making cars. They've stopped making cars for a different reason now, as they did in 2008, 2009. But look, the thing that I think will positively impact the dealer community is this. The used car dealer community we continue to see an escalating price for new cars. So I think that number right now is $36,000, $37,000 on average for a new car purchase. So I feel like what you're seeing then is the OEM's response through their financial, their financial companies to, match financially the higher cost of new car sales. But look, when anybody buys a new car, more times than not, they're trading something in. So I feel like the higher that purchase price is for new cars will help drive more sales towards used cars. Now, the no interest for 72 or 84 months does make that more appealing. But I think they're doing that to probably counterbalance the fact that new car sales are so high right now in terms of cost.
Right. Steve, that was a great answer. Shaun, the next question's for you. I have heard rumors about stimulus. I've heard rumors about families getting checks, about grants and SBA loans to small business owners. Can you discuss what you've heard, what's available that you know of, that you're aware of, to the public and to the small business owner as well as the independent dealer? We lose him.
I think we lost him.
The first time I have a solid question for him. Yeah. Okay, Steve, you've had a positive frame of mind through this whole conversation, and I'm throwing darts. I'm throwing all the negative questions that people are scared of that they have. So thanks for bringing up everything in a positive light. With that in mind, can you give us suggestions on how to stay strong, how to keep our heads up? With the closures, should we focus on family time, avoided honey-do lists, neglected projects, backlot inventory recon? What do you think should be our focus to stay positive and continue moving forward?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I would tell you what I found personally is just making sure that you focus on the things that you as a person and certainly people with families would need or want to do on a daily basis. So I think if anything, it gives us really a unique opportunity to kind of take a step back, reprioritize what is important in our lives right now, knowing that this worldwide pandemic is happening all around us. We're all struggling with the same information. We're all struggling with how it applies to my life personally, how it applies to my business, how it applies to every aspect of our lives. And I think what we'll find is we'll wake up in 30 or 60 days on the other side of this, and we'll have this kind of embedded idea in our minds about social distancing and taking care of our public health, doing things on a daily basis that will allow us to, in the future, make sure that we're very conscious about social health and the public health going forward. I think that'll be an interesting kind of byproduct of this whole exercise. But for me personally, it's more important now to make sure that I wake up every day, even though we are working from the house. My wife is a professor at the University of Texas at Arlington. She's also working from the house. We've got 2 dogs, we've got 2 cats, we've got kids coming home from college. So it's a really fun, unique time. But for me personally, it's doing the same things that I would normally do on a day-to-day basis, just doing it from home. I still run every day. I still work out as much as I can. I've run every day, at least a mile a day for more than 7 years. The streak is still alive. I've been running today. I've actually started running more with my family and my daughter now because she's at home from school because they've canceled classes. But I think it's now more important than ever to focus on what's important to you, whether it's your faith, whether it's fitness, whether it's, your family. But take a step back, really reassess what's important. Certainly our jobs are important and how we serve our customers and the community is important. But, a negative outlook or, a bitter perspective doesn't help anybody in this situation. That's why we've said publicly, try to control what you can control and do the best you can. We're all in this thing together. Let's keep rowing in the same direction. I think we're better together.
Steve, that was a perfect answer. I couldn't have said it better myself. And you actually, again, answered questions before I even asked them, because I was going to ask if that running streak is still going. But apparently it is 7 years strong.
Yeah, 7 years.
So I've also found my priorities have changed a little bit. I think it was a great opportunity for everybody to step back a little bit and reevaluate our lifestyles, especially in this industry where we're working 7 days a week, long hours. I picked up a pair of drumsticks for the first time in 20 years the other day. I did online yoga with my kids this morning. We dusted off the P90X DVDs and did it as a family. So I think I fixed the shower handle that I've been neglecting for 5 years. So there's a lot of potential to spend time with your family and find things that you haven't done in a while. And this just seems like it's a perfect excuse. I have one more question for you. This one is in regards to the NIADA convention in Las Vegas. I attended last year. I had an absolute ball, but not only did I have an absolute ball, I left relaxed and full of knowledge. I spoke with vendors. I spoke with like-minded dealers at intimate sessions, like sit-down tables, and then in groups, and there were groups everywhere pertaining to things I was interested in, things I didn't even know I was interested in, but I was after the conference. Can you touch a little bit upon the convention? Is it still going on? If so, when is it? Do you know? And how do we find out about it? How do we buy tickets to it?
Yeah, great question. Right now, it is currently planned for mid-June in Las Vegas at MGM Grand. We feel like internally, with the CDC's recommendation to put a moratorium on any gathering of 50 people or more through the middle of May, we don't feel like that gives us enough time to plan for and build a convention that our dealers and our industry partners and our members have come to expect. So we've been having very serious conversations internally. We're not going to not have a convention. So we're not going to cancel it. If anything, we'll rebook it for another time later in the year. What we're contemplating is when and where we can do that. The analogy that I've used is, it's like being at the airport waiting for your plane to take off, and then you're like, hey, your flight's delayed. And then it's like, oh, well, it's delayed again. And it's delayed. And then ultimately, you're in a situation like that, they could just cancel it. But what we want to do is try and rebook our flight, so to speak, before they cancel the flight altogether. All of that to say, we are in contacts with MGM Grand. We feel like we're at a place with them literally today or tomorrow. We'll be in a position where we can get out of that contract at MGM Grand in hopes that we can do a show later in the year. We're looking at dates, maybe in September, maybe in November, but more to come on that. We're not going to cancel it. We're going to rebook it. We're working out the details on the when and where, because to your point, we love doing this conference. It's a great time to get everybody together. It's like old home week. You got dealers and partners and vendors and industry stakeholders all getting together to figure out ways we can better the industry. We are probably going to add some educational topics about what does the industry look like post COVID-19. Like what are some of the things that we're going to learn from going through this whole exercise as small business owners, as an industry, online wholesaling, online retailing. How has life changed in the weeks and months after this whole experience for everybody? So that was a long answer. Feel free to cut that up and chop whatever out you don't want to use. But at the end of the day, we are going to do it. We are going to do a conference. We're working really hard behind the scenes right now to figure out what that means. And my expectation is we will be able to come into the market with an announcement about when that's going to be rebooked. So certainly would love to continue conversations with you. I know you and I talk frequently. We'll have updates on our website. We'll send out press releases. Happy to do something with you and your group to make an announcement once we know more. But yeah, have no fear.
So once you are ready, you have more information, I'd love to chat about the conference again, a little bit more detail. For the people that are watching still, because it's been a long video, hopefully everybody stay tuned. This conference, I went last year for the first time, and I don't want to miss another one. It was so informative. I made contacts that I still speak with regularly via Facebook and text. It was a great experience. So I hope that we stay in contact enough to get the word out for when it's coming and what people should expect. Can I ask one more question and then we'll call it quits for the day?
Of course.
Hopefully you can fill in for Shaun on that one. Wondering if there is some type of stimulus going out to the public and to the small business owner and independent dealers. Are you familiar with anything that's out there that's available? And again, two-part question. The phone number that the NIADA sent out to us asking to call into Capitol Hill last week, is that still something that we should think about right now, or is that time past?
That time has passed, but they are continuing to work kind of behind the scenes on a day-to-day basis to come up with kind of their third version of a stimulus package. Every package has a little bit different aid in it, so to speak. There was a Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Shaun's done a great job of summarizing a lot of the provisions in that bill. If you go to our website, covid19.niada.com, you can click on that link and it'll kind of walk you through a lot of the specific provisions that are available to not only dealers, but small business owners as well. I know there's some small business association relief in the package that just passed that will allow for no interest loans and no interest loans and low interest loans to small business owners who are having to manage a workforce that's declining because of an individual response to the coronavirus. Maybe they caught it, maybe they have to take a couple of weeks off. There are some incentives in there for not laying people off. But look, you've heard probably as well as we have, the federal government doesn't want small business to be in a position where they have to lay people off because of the efforts to flatten the curve. So they don't want small businesses, they don't want employees to have to worry about taking time off because of the need to treat the coronavirus or medical conditions or otherwise, something that could, prohibit or limit their ability to make money. So there's some provisions in there like that. There's the Small Business Administration Economic Recovery Loans Summary on our website. There's an Economic Injury Disaster Loans presentation. there's a lot of stuff that is available on our website that, in Shaun's absence, we'll make available to the public at NIADA or COVID19.niada.com.
Great. Thank you very much. So, Steve, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. I'm flattered that you guys took a piece of your day to speak with me and everyone watching, but more than flattered, I'm really appreciative that you did that, because there's a lot of people with a lot of questions that would like to hear from somebody with more answers than I have, because I'm just speaking opinion based, and I'd love to hear someone with some actual knowledge. So thank you for taking the time to speak with us. Is there anything you'd like to add before we go?
Well, happy to do it. First of all, I know you've got a pretty big audience out there, and we're happy to answer any questions that you and your audience members have. I'd also like to suggest, I know this has been a long time, this particular broadcast, but maybe if we want to tee up a weekly update on things that we're seeing. Maybe we could do something next week for 10 or 15 minutes, just to kind of build on what we established today. That might be helpful. Anything we can do to kind of get the message out and tell the story, we're happy to do. And I feel like we've done a really good job of kind of laying some of the groundwork for those who have stayed with us the whole time. Certainly appreciate your attention. But maybe next week we can take 10 or 15 minutes and build on what we established today, give new updates and the like. But the one thing that I would leave everybody with is keep fighting the good fight, wash your hands, stay safe. And this too will pass soon enough, and we'll wake up in 2 weeks or 30 days or.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I hope you've been able to maintain your attention for this long, because I know there were a lot of great questions and answers from all of you that hopefully you got the answers you were looking for from Shaun and Steve. If you have any more questions, feel free to shoot them our way in the comments down below. I'd like to give a special thank you to Shaun and Steve for taking the time out of their day for all of us to help answer all of our questions. If you want to know a little bit more about the industry, make sure to subscribe down below. You can learn all of my tips and tricks, as well as any of the fun and not so fun stuff that we go through as car dealers. I'll see y'all later, everybody. Adios. Subscribe down below and hit that bell so you get notifications every time we make a new video.